And welcome to Traveling with the Chair and Monday Night Live. We're going to talk tonight with Scott Walters. He's a travel agent, and he and I are going to talk about some of the reasons that people really want to think about using a travel agent. A lot of people say, well, I can do it myself. We're going to examine some of the reasons why a travel agent is many times a better choice. So, Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
All right. I'm got a wife and three kids. I live in suburban New York. I've been doing the travel thing for almost 6 years now. I used to be a teacher. I used to do be sales. I used to do all kinds of things. But while I was a stay-at-home dad, I was answering some Facebook posts on Disney-centric groups, and a lady literally typed a message to me. Says, "Are you a travel agent?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, why don't you join me?" So I did. 5 months later, her partner, who she's now disconnected with completely, kicked me out. And so I hooked up with my current agent group with Travel Planners International and with Scott Asplund. And I've been at it ever since. I've sent people to all continents except Antarctica. My specialty area is family travel, the Disney's, Universal's, cruises, all inclusives, things like that. But I've been at it for about 5.5 years, now almost 6 years, and I really enjoy interacting with people and finding out how they travel and what makes them tick. I think that's the biggest thing. The first thing that a travel agent like myself is different than one of the online agencies that people do it themselves with is we offer a sense of personalized service that you just can't get when you go to the Expedias or the travel advisors or anywhere else like that.
Yeah, and we're going to come back and talk about that a little more because there is so much truth in that statement. Um, and I see a lot of people that go out there and look, and they look at just the price and they don't look at what they miss out. They also miss a lot of times the fact that some of the prices people at the, let's call them, the big box agencies advertise is not really the price because there's a lot of things hidden in the background that they don't tell you about. I want to start with number five. We're going to do the top five, and we're going to start at the one that's least important. Now, a lot of people think this is most important, but this is actually the least important of these five. We'll start there. And that is the fact that travel agents are free and they may have better pricing or perks that you can't get on your own.
That is always true because unless you come across a travel agent, there are some that do charge you a planning fee, and they keep it whether not your travel. We are 95% of us or so are free to use. We do have a lot of available resources. Reason we're free is because the places you stay at pay us commission when you travel, and that's a really key thing to remember. So if you go to the Expedias or you go directly with the cruise line, you're getting the exact same price we do. Now, what happens is it's all well and good, except the online travel agency, like say Bookit.com, rest in peace, a place like that, they can go under. Other places can have very, very interesting fine print. We give it to you up front, and we do it all for free. I think the other thing about what we do with things like the cruise lines, especially, is we actually have access to group rates and group amenities that you can't get when you call the cruise line directly or if you go to their website. Now, what you can do as a do-it-yourselfer is you can do all the research, and then you can say, all right, this is what I'm looking for. Set it up for me. And then I can go ahead and go with find my travel partners and find a way to set up something for you that's going to work and going to be great for you and may actually save you even more money.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the key piece of it is the cruise line is going to give you, their typical everyday rate. They're not going to try to find you perks and other things that might be hidden. I know working with travel planners as I do and with Scott as you do, that a lot of times we have groups that are, we'll call them speculative groups, where we block out some group space and we get some special perks to go with it because we know there'll be enough people to fill up and make the group. And those can be of significant value to people. And those are things that you're not going to be able to find on your own any way you try to do it.
No, it's not, especially if you're only your own self, because we can combine you with other people that aren't like family and friends and whatnot, and we can really make it happen.
Yeah. And one of the things that's kind of interesting, you mentioned family and friends. Several of the cruise lines actually have family and friends rates that are available to travel agents. Again, they're not going to share that as a cruise line. Expedia is not going to go looking for those rates typically, but those are rates that a private agent a lot of times can find and do what they can to really make the trip as economical as possible, but also to make it as good as possible.
That's right.
And
We
that
can
kind of
find those little nooks and crannies. In fact, here's a funny one. A friend of mine who doesn't usually send me bookings is hopefully going on a Disney cruise in August to Alaska. But I found him one of the very few interior cabins on the Disney cruise ship that actually works as an ocean view. Even though it's marked as interior and priced as interior, it has a window, so therefore it actually works as an ocean view. But he got the ocean view for the interior price, and that's kind of knowledge I can bring to the table that you're not going to find unless you really dig hard. And if I'm free, why should you do all of that work?
exactly, and that leads us into the next point. Hi, Joyce. Nice to have you with us. Is that travel agents have product and destination information that's not easily accessible to the general public. We have resources that a lot of people don't have access to, and we've looked at our resources enough that we can find things fairly efficiently.
That's true. For instance, there are lots of independent tour operators that if you go to try and find a tour, there are a couple of consumer-friendly websites that can find you tours. But we actually know the people in many cases that run these tours, and we can actually get you a price that's 5, 10, 15% less per person. For instance, my wife and daughter went to Paris and London recently, just before all this went down, and I was able to find for them a tour that included making macaroons at a actual French patisserie. And I got that tour for $68 a person. The same tour by one of those online people that, we all know the name of if you look hard enough, was $86 a person. So I was able to convert that, have my wife and daughter pay less. Of course, I paid for it because of my daughter's birthday. But I got my wife and daughter to pay less, and they had enough money to go ahead and have a nice picnic lunch by the Seine. So it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I remember seeing the pictures of your wife and your daughter traveling around. I was like, maybe you should adopt me too.
So they had a great time, and then, like I said, they were lucky to do it the week of President's Week because obviously there's nothing going on for the next while.
Yeah. And so that kind of leads us logically to our next point. And this is really one of the important, and these are going to start to get more important as we go forward. But your travel agent is loyal to you.
That's right. I have the client's best interest in mind. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions to find out what your vacation style is. And some people are going, man, that's a bit personal, but it's not really personal. I just need to know the vibe you want. There are some people that, for instance, like a more rustic kind of vacation. So say Disney, for example, there's 20 different resorts at Disney World that I have to try and slot clients into. So if someone wants a rustic experience, and they can literally go and we can set them up at a campsite. They can pitch their tent, okay? They can pull up their RV. They can do that. Or they even have cabins at this campground. But if you want to be opulent and over the top, we have the Polynesian Resort. We have the Grand Floridian Resort. We have the Contemporary Resort. Totally different vibes. There's a one that's called the Coronado, that's kind of Mexican themed. Has an excellent place to go get breakfast. You have the Beach Club with great pools. That's a walk to Epcot, and now you can get yourself and hitch a ride over to Hollywood Studios. So again, something like Disney, if I know what people like, I'm better able to suit and get their needs met. Someone hates clowns. I'm not sending them to the Boardwalk Resort that has a clown pool. I'm not doing that. All right. But so that's just an example. And like Disney unto itself is so immense. Okay. That if you try to do it yourself the first 5 or 6 times, it's really hard. My wife has a nickname for me when it comes to Disney. It's called Commando Disney because back way before I was a travel agent, we went on our honeymoon there. and I did diligent research. I pulled out all the guidebooks that were available at the time because the internet was a thing, but it wasn't like a thing like it is now. And
Yeah.
I knew exactly what I needed to get for the value. I had my budget. I knew what I needed to get, and I was able to do that. And my wife was stunned and amazed at all the stuff we were able to do. And this is before dining plans and fast passes and stuff like that. Nowadays, there's all these other layers you have to consider. And again, a lot of it does require, what I call needs assessment. You have one of our main jobs as an agent is to assess your needs. If you go to Expedia, if you go to the cruise lines, they don't ask you any questions like that. They're not equipped to.
Yeah, and I want to touch about one thing that is really a sore subject with me. And I see people, that go to the cruise line, and the cruise line says, "Yeah, but you can take a cruise without a passport." Well, that is true. You can take a cruise without a passport, but if anything bad happens, you're going to be stuck in a foreign country needing a passport to get home, and you're not going to have one. And so that's one of the things that travel agents can bring to the fore is the knowledge of what you should do, how to do things right. Because sometimes doing it the cheapest possible way has a lot of risk with it.
That's true. There are all kinds of things. You can go ahead and do a cruise, and then you find out you have a 9-hour layover at some airport that's really junky. And then on the way back, you find out that the flight back is a red eye, and it's going like, oh my gosh. And then not only the issue with the passports is also something that's really come up to be a huge thing, and that's travel insurance. As a travel agent, you know this, Ken, but as a travel agent, I can go ahead and price out all kinds of travel insurance based on the needs of the traveler. And again, say you're using miles from your airline. Well, we can include what the retail cost of that's going to be in the travel insurance with the rest of the package that I've developed for you. So these are really crucial things in this day and age that, again, they're not obligatory, but they're highly recommended and strongly urged.
Yes, and so and as a travel agent, it's our job to make sure that a client is informed about the potential one way or the other. Sometimes, like I said, you deal with the big box stores or the cruise line themselves, and they just want to get your money. And as a travel agent, I would much rather tell you the truth, much rather give you the cold, hard, brutal facts if you need them, so that you make a good decision. Because the worst thing in the world would be for me to know that you're stuck somewhere in a foreign country, and if I'd have just taken the time to tell you about insurance or a passport, that you wouldn't be in that situation.
And those can be very costly too. I mean, incredibly so, because all those places look for their money up front. I mean, they literally do.
Yeah, I've done a couple of videos on it, and one that really struck home to me. And this was over the Christmas holiday time frame. There was a couple on a cruise. He had a stroke. They took him from the ship to Grand Bahama Island, to Freeport. And in Freeport, they didn't have the ability to he needed brain surgery is what he needed.
Oh,
and they didn't have the ability to do that. So he needed a medical evacuation flight to from the Bahamas, which is close, back to he lived in Myrtle Beach. And by the time, he spent several days, his wife did, trying to raise money. Finally, a donor stepped up and said, "Hey, I'll pay for the flight." And it was around $20,000. This guy
paid for. Hugely expensive.
Yeah, and it was close. Elsewise, it'd been even worse. By the time they got him home, it was too late, and he died. And good travel insurance and a passport would have meant that he could have gotten off the ship, gone to the hospital. They said, "You need to go home," and he'd have been home probably the next day or that same day even. So it is those kinds of things that, as a travel agent, it's our responsibility to share that with our clients, to do all we can to protect them.
It's it, because that's our job. Our job is their well-being. And it's just like, even when it comes to certain resorts or certain locations, there's certain resorts and locations I cannot recommend because it doesn't make sense as far as the safety and well-being of the client goes. And Joyce makes an excellent point when she says that, when she goes, you don't need a passport for Bahamas until something happens. And it's true. You should have a passport. It's not that expensive on a net basis. For 10 years, it's $120. Now they're not processing it right now because of the corona business, but when they get back to doing it, it's money well spent.
Yeah, I would not leave the country without a passport. I just wouldn't do it. There's
And
just
in many cases, you can't. It's if you even for me, if I take my family to Niagara Falls this summer, which I will, we all have to be passported up, and that's just the way it is, and that's fine. There's just no. It's not even a question, really.
yeah. And Joyce, I do see your comments. I appreciate them very much. Like I said, passports are so huge, and like I said, it's really a sore subject with me. Okay, so let's go to number 2. A travel agent will save you some time.
Well, without question, again, I'm doing all the heavy lifting. You can have a client go ahead and do all that heavy lifting, but if I do my proper vetting, I can whip up a quote usually within 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how fussy the internet might be with whatever particular travel vendor I'm using. And I can get even nice customized trips. One of the things I do besides my regular focus of family and U.S. based travel is I'll do these trips to Europe, and I have a couple of vendors that I use, and I can give them the details of what I'm looking for. They go ahead and they find boutique hotels because that's the type of trip people want, and they'll put it together. And in 30 minutes, I can get an email quote out to the people. Again, if you try to do it on your own and try to, especially when it comes to piecemeal multiple destination things, your head will be spinning. And again, when you're working for free, we go back to that whole thing. I'm working for you and you're not paying me anything because it's already built into the price. Now, again, you can go to some of these places. Look, even Groupon sometimes will have travel specials, but the fine print can be so amazingly crazy. I mean, I've had people come up to me and says, "What do you think of this?" I says, "Well, I don't think very much of it. Here's what I can do for even less money because this is what they forgot." And there'll be 3 or 4 or 5 components of a trip that they forgot. And it's just like, that's not really good for you. Plus, it might even not be a good resort choice. The other thing I want to talk about this is these Facebook groups. And there are a lot of them. Parent groups, community groups. Someone will say, they'll write a question. Do you have an idea for a good all-inclusive in Jamaica? And then 40 people will chime in with what their idea of a good all-inclusive in Jamaica is, but it may not have anything to do with the particular wants and needs of the person who asked the question. Now, it's fine for them to ask the question, but again, you'll get people saying, throwing out different resort names because they liked it there. They maybe they met their future spouse there. Whatever the reason, and that's fine. Personal preference is fine, but it's not a professional, kind of thing. And it's crazy. Even on the Disney group, should I stay here? Should I stay there? I go, it's like a choice. Should I get the dining plan? That's a math problem. So it's like all these different things that someone like myself or Ken or any legitimate travel agent could really go ahead and make sure that you are getting the best value for your money. It's about value. That's the bottom line.
Exactly, and that's the one thing that people get confused sometimes is they confuse price with value.
That's right. Price is what you pay. Value is what you receive.
Yeah, and sometimes the lowest price is the least value.
Again, and we're not trying to get people to get the highest priced options, unless that's what I'm being asked to do. If I'm being asked, get me the top of the line room at this resort, fine. I have no problem with that. I'm on it so fast that it. But if someone has no real clue, they don't give me dates. Because here's what a traveler needs to give me in order to really start the process: the number of people in the party, the ages of any children in the party, the dates they want to travel, the airport they wish to go from if they're going by air, and also they need to know exactly what kind of travel experiences they are looking for. What is it they want from this vacation? Every vacation has a different end game. Again, if you're for me, like I was supposed to actually be in Hollywood Studios at Disney World today, right? So my end game for this trip to Disney was going to be to go to Galaxy's Edge, see the attractions there, make sure that my daughter had her birthday celebrated properly, go to Epcot for the Flower and Garden Festival, see the Spaceship Earth for the last time, and then go to the Magic Kingdom, stay till the end of the night and see the Kiss Goodnight. And that's exactly what my end game was, and to enjoy a new resort I hadn't been to at Disney World. So these are the type of things that, that really need to be impressed upon, because the regular traveling public, it's like that NBC has those PSAs that say the more you know. Well, we are the ones that know. The people on the Facebook groups, they try real hard and they're very well intentioned, but they may not know.
Exactly. And that is I guess a huge piece of it. And the one thing I did a little bit of a video a while back, but there's three pieces really in my mind that somebody needs to sort out, because you need to know what is the biggest priority for you. Is it when you go? Is it where you go? Or is it how much you spend? Because if going to Alaska is your number one priority and you have to go in the wintertime and you want to cruise,
no,
that's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah. So you need to sort out those things. What are your priorities? In other words, if you can only travel this week of the year, then that's got to be the priority first, is when I can go. If you only got $1,000 to spend, then that could be the priority. So knowing those things, and again, sharing that with the travel agent then helps us to help you. Because if we know what's really important to you, if we understand your priorities, and again, this is all about understanding the customer, what they want, what they need, then we can put together something that matches that for them. I want to come back to one other thing on this. How much time did you spend on the phone taking care of clients in, let's say, the last 3 or 4 weeks?
Oh, man.
With all cruise cancellations.
Between cruises and land trips and Disney trips and my couple of all literally it was clocked in at least 4 full working days, 32 hours, since March 1st. At least 32 hours on the phone, between being put on hold, between duking it out with people, between getting things straight, between doing the cancellation properly, to rebooking, to all that. I would say easily 32 hours on the phone.
Yeah.
Easily.
And so
guess what? If you're working and you have, say you're one of those, essential workers, and you had a trip planned for this week because it's Easter week and many schools are off, you don't have the time to call these places and figure it out. You don't. And look, I know so many of the people that are essential workers, and I have a lot of them as clients, and they've all been very thankful. I mean, yeah, they're still working, and they've all been very thankful, and except for one person, they were able to move their trip. So, but it's still, this is this sort of thing also where time is money. And look, again, did I lose a lot of money during this time? Oh, sure. Who's kidding who? Any travel agent that tells you they did lose a lot of money is lying, or they didn't have any money to lose. So,
me.
I'm sorry, Ken.
Nothing to lose.
My condolences. I'll send a mass card in the mail tomorrow. But the point is, this right now we're in a whole new world. We're in I kind of call it the Walt Disney World of suspended animation, because we really don't know what's going to happen and when, and so we're all winging it. But again, you don't need to do it alone. There's no reason to.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And I know some of the agents talked about spending 3 or 4 hours on hold trying to take care of client cancellations, for example. Now, in most cases, they were dealing with multiple clients, so it wasn't like they spent 4 hours on every client. But each of those clients would have individually maybe had to spend that 4 hours on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's assuming they got through to somebody that knew what the policy was and all of the things that can happen on the other side.
That's true, because a lot of our travel vendors have specialty lines for the travel agents and not for the general public. And the people that are in the call centers for the general public usually are not as well versed as the ones that deal directly with the travel agents. That's a really important thing. You call Disney Direct and you're just a regular consumer, you're going to get someone working from their home always, not from a call center. They get briefed on everything last. They're lucky if they keep up with the news. They mix up resorts because I've actually been sent to the wrong person sometimes, and I've had this happen to me. I've actually had to hang up. So there you go. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, hon. You're very loud. Oh, my wife is telling me I'm loud. I'll try to be softer.
Okay. Yeah.
The
My wife
broadcasting.
my wife would tell you that she just puts her earplugs in.
Well,
She knows I have a big mouth.
I told her to close the door. Anyhow, but no, it's just true. You know, there's so many permutations out there, and even an all-inclusive resort can have 15, 18 different room categories, and to know which one is right is just crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it is.
And Joyce is right. Some of these travel vendors have pulled people from other departments to try and handle the flood of calls, and it's just, you know, again, you really have to entrust your agent who's looking out for you. Because here's what happens: if I don't do right by you, you're not using me again. You're going to tell your friends about it, and it's going to be a total mess for me.
Exactly. And and that kind of leads us into this next one is that a travel agent can advocate for their clients when bad things happen.
Oh my gosh. I have an all-time story on that. This is from like last year. Two families were going on a cruise. One booked with me and one booked directly with the cruise line. Actually, they booked through Costco because they wanted the $350 gift card. So when they booked through Costco, they asked me if I could arrange their flights. I said I don't do air only, but I was glad to do the air arrangements for the other family, and I was able to get them their transfers to the ship and all of that. I even set them up in an airport hotel the day before, and they had shuttle to the port, so they were all set. So family number two, they end up doing their own air, and they end up doing air with a connecting flight through Atlanta, which is a big bear of an airport. And their flight from Atlanta to the cruise port was going to get them on board the ship to the airport 3.5 hours before the ship was to leave. They get to Atlanta and they find out that there's something called a ground stop. Now, for those who don't know what a ground stop is, that's when all operations at the airport have to cease. Nothing leaves the airport. So, oh, and by the way, they didn't get passports. But at first, it was an open loop cruise, which means it started at one port but ended in another. So they needed to get expedited passports. And there were five of them, so it was $1,200 total for that cost. So they're at the airport in Atlanta. They're calling their friends feverishly. The friends say, call Scott. He'll try to set you up. So I ended up having to book them 2 nights at the Atlantis in the Bahamas because that was the only thing available, including a one-way air from Atlanta to the Bahamas. And that was $2,800 more for them. So they ended up taking it for 2 nights because they had to wait for the cruise ship to come and then to hop on the cruise ship. And of course, they had to deal with the fact that they had to go and do some business with the cruise company because I couldn't touch that. So it ends up that they end up paying $4,000 more between expedited passports. Instead of $600, they paid $1,200 for expedited passports. And they paid $2,800 because they didn't take the advice of their friend from the other family to go through me. But they did get the $350 Costco gift card, so I hope they use that on toilet paper or something.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And I can go back and think of cases where I've helped people and where I'm constantly in the different forums and Scott's got a forum for his agents and I look at the things that some of the travel agents go through to try to resolve problems for their customers. And it may not even be anything that travel agent did or really has any obligation for.
That's true. Oftentimes there are acts of God and other things that, there's nothing we can do. And we do our best. When my wife and daughter were coming back from Paris, their plane had mechanical issues. Okay. So I was on the phone with Air France, the carrier, and I did get Air France to get them a night at the airport hotel, and they redid the flight in the morning for them to come back from Paris. But my wife and after they show up at 7 o'clock at 6 o'clock at the airport to get on a plane. It kept delay, and then it's not going. At 3 o'clock Paris time in the afternoon, she's completely frustrated. She's very tired, so she handed it off to me. I'm able to get her and my daughter a reasonable enough airport hotel with 2 food vouchers, one for dinner and one for breakfast, and they get on the plane the next morning. They come back.
Yeah, and that's exactly the kinds of things that a good travel agent will do. Like I said, we've seen it in situations with with all these cancellations of cruises. The travel agents are doing all they can to advocate and to get, because sometimes the a good example is onboard credit. I have seen cases where somebody called the cruise line and canceled on their own, and then they don't get the onboard credit. And the travel agent has to go back in and literally fight on their behalf to get them what they should have had. But it goes back to that point number 3 I made about the travel agent being loyal to our customers. It's our job. It's our responsibility to advocate for you and to do everything we can to help you out. And are we going to get paid for all the time and energy we expend in that? No.
Not one penny.
No, we're not. But
but that's not the point.
Yeah. And that was where I was going with it, is we do it because it's our job to care for you. Most of us that are in this business are in it because we love the business. A lot of us that are in it started because we loved planning trips. That was me.
True story.
My wife would tell you that I get more fun from planning a trip than I do from going on the trip. In fact, she said since I started my YouTube channel and started videotaping things, that I'm the only person she knows that can take a vacation and turn it into a job.
Well, listen, like I said, my wife calls me Commando Disney with darn good reason. There's no doubt. I used to listen. I'm much more relaxed about my pace now because we realize, okay, it's still going to be there for the most part. But boy, I used to haul butt all around those parks, and then but I got so much in that no one could complain about that.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times when we go to Disney, my wife has the advantage that she's in her wheelchair and I push. So I can travel fairly quickly. I'm pretty good at pushing. But yeah, and it's just so, again, it's about, we do it because we love what we do. We love taking care of people. We love helping people. And, so like I said, again, the conclusion of all of this is there's no reason not to use a travel agent and lots of reasons to use a travel agent. I want to thank you, Scott, for being here tonight. Everybody sees me looking over to the side, but that's where Scott is on that monitor over there. But I appreciate you for being here. If you would hang around for just a minute after we end the broadcast, I would ask that if you've enjoyed the broadcast, do me a favor, hit the like and the subscribe button. I do a live show every week. I try to bring in people that share information that'll be helpful. I do videos on ships. I do port videos, try to do things that people will enjoy, and share it out with your friends and your family. Love the exposure. If you have questions and they didn't get answered because I didn't see any questions tonight, we did have Joyce with us. And Joyce, by the way, did tell your daughter happy birthday.
Thanks, Joyce.
Yeah, and right, it is easier than it used to be because now you can do a lot of research online. There's no question that people have more tools than they've had in the past. But I would say, if you got questions, put them in the comments, either on Facebook or on YouTube. I'll come back and I'll find you the answers, or I'll refer you to Scott. In the YouTube video at the bottom, what you'll find is there's a link to Scott's Facebook page. There's some links to some other Facebook pages, depending on what cruise line you like. So please take a look at it, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for being here.
And I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Scott.